Let's go to Francis Atwoli Day. That is what a lot of people are calling him, and right now we should be seeing some pictures of that day, dancing and all manner of things happening at Uhuru Park, a day that was supposed to be about the workers, but yes, we see images like those ones. Lady and gentlemen, this is Labor Day, but I mean what we saw yesterday at Uhuru Park seems to focus on a lot of things apart from workers, Yvonne.
Or one person apart from workers. It's this whole big man syndrome that we are obsessed with in this country. And quite frankly, the largesse, the bringing in of Congolese musicians and that sort of thing. And what for me was surprising was, of course, the politicians who were chosen to speak, but each of them came on and were singing his praises. As Moses Kuria said, he was sad that he attended a political rally. Well, he called it a NASA political rally. But again, the trade union movement in this country is not what it was in the days when, yes, even when they did speak about politics, it was about changing policy that would work for workers. I mean, the days of Pio Gama Pinto, it's not the same, and purple dominated. I don't know if purple is the color of workers or the color of COTU.
It's the color of COTU.
Because right now it just seems synonymous with each other. But it was...
or Atwoli's color.
Or Atwoli's.
Joe,
okay.
What is Labor Day? Let's start there. What is Labor Day? What do we expect during such an important function to happen? This was not Labor Day, what we witnessed yesterday. It was Atwoli Day. It was a political party or a political rally, so to say. And I take note of the dwindling numbers of workers who continue to grace this function every year. It says to me two things. Either people who used to attend no longer find a reason to attend, or two, the discussions there no longer fit the workers, and number three, they don't care. Because I want us to count the number of times workers' issues were mentioned in that function, vis-a-vis the number of times politics of 2022, the anti-Ruto rhetoric, and what you would say the kieleweke kind of politics was discussed. Look at the amount of time. And that shows you that we've lost meaning of Labor Day here in this country. Compare this to what happens in countries where the workers' unions are more serious, more candid, and issue-oriented in terms of what the workers are doing. Look at COTU in South Africa, for example. People discuss very serious issues there. In fact, that organization dictates or even influences who becomes the president. So it's such a serious organization. Can COTU do the same here in this country? I doubt.
Linus, of course, Atwoli has been speaking about the deputy president, and one time he had a briefcase where he was unveiling the Luhya leader, and also, and increasingly is doing all these other things that appear very political in nature, and some would say not focusing so much on this single-minded pursuit of the things that really matter to workers in this country, and there are many of them.
Now, let me just put it in context here. COTU is an umbrella body of the trade unions. It's not a trade union. There are other trade unions, over, I think, 40-something, that are members of the trade union. What we saw yesterday is what COTU has always done. If you look through history of this country, COTU has been about political mobilization. First, because the rest of the job, when it comes to the rights of the worker, is supposed to be done by the affiliate bodies. And then COTU comes in as a pressure group, the group that then pushes the political side of things. And this is what it has done over the years. Francis Atwoli is on his 19th year now as the COTU Secretary General. He is the longest serving. Before him was Joseph Mugala, who did about 10 or 11 years as the helm. But you look at the history of COTU, COTU has produced political leaders. You'll remember that Mugala actually ended up in Parliament at some point. And before that, you look way back, the first Secretary General, Clement Lubembe, also became quite a figure in politics.
Dennis Akumu as well.
Dennis Akumu ended up in politics. To separate COTU and politics is very, very difficult. The political space is a legitimate ground for trade unions world over. Francis, you had mentioned COSATU. COSATU is a big political animal, very influential within the African National Congress. Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa currently, was in COSATU. Before that, he was the Mine Workers Union and then became the boss at COSATU. Look further afield, Solidarity Movement in Poland. They were a very political organization. And they even had a bigger fighting communism. What started as a small strike in a shipyard in Lenin ended up being a movement that then eventually led to the fall of communism in Poland. The Secretary General, the leader of the Solidarity, ended up as president of Poland. The story of COTU, of course, is different. We don't see Francis Atwoli in terms of running for office, but you see him flexing his muscles, trying to influence politics. In Western Kenya...
But it's interesting you said trying, because that is an important thing. I don't know whether it is COTU or it is Atwoli.
And also, I would add, to what end? Because all of the examples you've given, it's about, gaining control, gaining power towards uplifting the lives of workers. And all of them had an end in mind. I'm not so sure that that end in mind is very apparent here, as opposed to whether it is for personal political gain or saying we want to take over power, we want to be able to control policies that then change workers' lives. And let me say here and now, the head of COTU has been acting like a politician for the last few months. I would not be surprised if this is 2022 in the offing. I would not be surprised if he runs for governor, either in Kakamega or one of the counties in Western Kenya. But that is what it is. You mobilize people, you mobilize control, you mobilize power, you want to have a seat there so that you're making laws, you're making legislations that actually work for the workers. You are passing these things. I mean, can anyone think of a single issue that has been dealt with from the beginning, the flower farmers and the tea picking machines, all the way up until their conclusion? Even if you take a look at what happened just the other day with the housing levy fund, in which he was a party in the case and then sought to have an agreement. Now, the sort of simplistic thing that, okay, if we add workers more money, then they'd be able to participate in the housing fund levy, when it was a lot more than that. But also our Labor Day celebrations have simply focused on the very simplistic issue of wage increment, minimum wage, when it is about a lot more than that. Minimum wage is important, yes, don't get me wrong, but there's many issues that are facing
we'll
workers
get those issues. I wanted us to exhaust a little bit about the current Secretary General of COTU, and anyway, we move to that. To what extent, where is that line? I imagine it is thin, but where is it, Francis, when you think about politics is a legitimate playground, as it were, for unionists around the world, but what kind of politics, to what extent is that revolving around this leader? What is the clout of COTU as an umbrella workers' body vis-a-vis all the things, the drama that we see around when we have Labor Day or indeed some other functions that happen across the year?
I put it this way. Currently, Francis Atwoli is COTU and COTU is Francis Atwoli. I look at it in that context, because even if an election was to be held today, he will still easily come back. He has his own ways of doing these things. He will come back.
Because he's unopposed, actually.
No, not necessarily, but because...
No, the last couple of times.
Yes, but how does he end up being unopposed? He has a way of making sure that there is no opposition. Let's start there. Number two, it's also a question of how well the organization is able to represent and articulate issues relating to workers. I mean, Francis Atwoli himself represents workers in tea farms and other areas, what you call
Kenya
Planters
Workers
Union.
Are they well represented? Yesterday, I looked at the contrast. Look at the people who are on this side of the podium and the people who are on that side of the podium, how they arrived, the opulence, how they left, the fanfare, and so on and so forth. And the people who came to listen to them with a lot of hope that at least something will happen to them. Look at how they went home, dejected, disappointment. And this is a story of workers in this country and the people who represent them. They are there, the workers are down here. And so the situation may not change as it were. By then, have you ever seen a strike organized by COTU in this country?
Well, 2011, they tried to organize the one on Matatu fares, but it didn't quite take off. It was supposed to be a 10-day strike, but there was sort of a difference between the Matatu operators, so the strike never quite took off. There was one, I think, by J.J. Mugala that was successful. 93.
Absolutely, and there's something Francis was saying about COTU being Atwoli and Atwoli being COTU. In the trade union movements world over, there is no shortcut. Leadership, you have to be a charismatic leader, you have to be able, you have to stand out. And I'll even give local examples. The Kenya National Union of Nurses, what's his name?
George Seth Panyako.
Seth Panyako. They stand out. You must be the fellow willing to go that extra step. Yeah. Stand there, out there, and be known. They're normally vocal. Right now, you can see that what Francis Atwoli has done is to see off some of his opponents. I think there was a challenge some time back by Wafula Musamia, who even threatened to lead a splinter group of COTU. And he comfortably saw him off, using the trade union skills, rabble-rousing, the speeches, ability to reach out to farmers and to workers. That is part of the ability to lead a trade union movement. You look back in the history, this is where the likes of Tom Mboya started. Yeah. Kenya Federation,
Kenya of Labour.
Federation of Labour.
KFL,
yeah, KFL. And that's where he made his name. Those speeches, the very strong statements that he had to make, eloquence and all that. You have to be able to do those things. And you look around COTU right now, what is happening is the leadership is aging. In fact, I think the day Francis Atwoli leaves, he has to leave with a whole team. They are quite old. These people are from the 60s. They knew Tom Mboya. They worked with Dennis Akumu. They grew up the ranks. So, and then we will then start seeing the emergence of the new ones, the likes of Sosion, probably
Omoluga.
Omoluga.
Yeah.
Those are the fellows that will now be the next COTU. But it's not happening yet. Francis Atwoli is having his day, like we've said there, complete with his choice of music, the Lingala that
from the DRC.
From the DRC.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, the crowd, a majority of them young workers who cannot relate with that kind of, what is the name of the musician again?
Niboma, I think.
Yes.
They don't know. They don't know who those.
But and that said, for sure, the labor union movements must engage in political participation, because that is the only way that they can bring about policy change and economic advancement for their people. And that is not in doubt from all the examples, Linus, that you have given. But the question here is, after all these years of being at the helm, 19 you said, out of that, what has that political participation and agitation achieved for the workers? I mean, we now have a good number of labor union leaders who are in parliament, some of them nominated, some of them voted for. And so it would be interesting to see the sort of legislation that they're able to pass, the sort of pushes that they're able to sail through to enable the workers to have better terms, better working environments. So without a doubt, political participation is important for labor union movements. But in this case, we are creating a demigod. I mean, for heaven's sake, we have a song in praise of a person. And the lyrics are, Ni nani atakaye komboa Kenya? And it's an individual. I would imagine that the song would be, Ni nani anakomboa or ni nani anashikilia economy ya Kenya? It is the workers. It is the people. It is those who toil every morning, as opposed to this savior mentality. Look, behold. In fact, I mean, just take a look at that picture that is behind us. Behold, I have come to save you. I am your savior.
And it doesn't work any other way in the trade unions.
I suppose not.
But I think the other thing, Linus, which is probably the difference, which Yvonne is trying to get at, if you look at COSATU, they are so involved they are so involved. They are so effective in influencing what happens within the ANC ranks. So much so that some of the criticism that I've had now is that they have made labor very expensive in South Africa. So the companies are struggling and that sort of thing because their impact is there. It is real. Here, probably not so much. I mean, the impact of trade unions. If you could pick the individual ones like KNUT
or KMPDU,
but this is the difference.
KNU and that sort of thing.
This is the difference, Joe. COSATU is in government. It is a legitimate part of the ruling coalition.
But it didn't go find itself there. It actually
it found itself there by supporting the liberation and you know, it was easy to politic in the trade unions than to politic in the ANC during apartheid, because you politic in the ANC, you will be arrested, you'll be detained. Everyone was in prison except Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa was making noise in the miners workers union, MW, when Mandela was in prison. So that way they had room, because at least they could do this as a trade union. Coming back to COTU, the closest they have ever gotten to government was in the 80s when Joseph Mugala worked with KANU.
KANU, yes.
They worked with KANU very, very closely, supporting the KANU government. And they separated when they could not get a stake in government, because they also wanted to get appointments. They wanted a particular person for Minister for Labor. They had made some demands which President Daniel Arap Moi found unacceptable, and so it was time to go out. The current COTU, where does it sit? Is it in the government? No, it's not. Is it in the opposition? It's all over the place, I would say. Sometimes it positions itself almost as a political party that is neither NASA nor Jubilee. It's sitting somewhere in between. And you see the leader, that is Francis Atwoli, swinging also between these political pillars. Sometimes he'll be very happy with Uhuru Kenyatta. Sometimes he'll be very angry with Raila Odinga. You know, he would do this up and down, because COTU, unlike COSATU, is not really affiliated. It's not in government.
Linus, Joe and Yvonne, I have some breaking news for you. On May 1st, 2020, a replica of what you saw yesterday will happen. Anyone who will annoy Francis Atwoli between now and that time will be in for a serious thrashing at Uhuru Park. Number two, anyone who will be likable to Atwoli at that time will be in for some serious praise. You will see a bit of rumba again. You will see a lot of dancing. And more importantly, less of workers' issues. So please prepare for that next year.
The other thing we need to prepare, Francis, I agree, and there's a lot of sympathies to our teams that cover Labor Day. I think it's very difficult to film Francis Atwoli speaking. There is a podium there, but he's moving all over the place. I don't know whether you watched. It was very disturbing television. Very sorry to our cameraman, because to follow, look at that. He would leave shortly and go out of frame, because we
can actually listen to one of the things he said there.
Yeah, by the way.
Tulipropose tubadilishe katiba. Uhuru bado ni mdogo, ataenda wapi? To create governance, hawa watu wote waingie ndani, tukimaliza uchaguzi iko amani. Hapa ndio tulipropose tubadilishe katiba. Uhuru bado ni mdogo, ataenda wapi? To create governance.
This is tough television. Filming this is
perhaps
not easy.
You should have given them a hardship allowance.
We need a drone.
Well, I'm more sympathetic to the sign language interpreter. I was waiting to see what she would her sign name for Shenzi would be. I really struggled, but
yeah, but
even looking at how animated he is, this is a combination of both the sign language and his remarks.
Wow. This is what I would ask. And it's all well and good for him to agitate for, if he pleases, you know, Uhuru is too young to retire or whatever. The theme for the Labor Day of 2019 was uniting...
Just so you know, Anthony Kangede says, Atwoli is very young. Nataka aende wapi?
69.
Uniting workers for social and economic advancement. That was the theme for this year. And I just want all of us to just reflect on whether, amongst all those features today, including by, COTU boss, where there was the issue of uniting workers for social and economic advancement. Do we feel like this message resonated anywhere at all with the speeches, with the positions that were taken? Just food.
But I think it was significant that for the first time in a very long time, we saw Wilson Sossion representing the Teachers Union at a Labour Day event and speaking there.
But they came back together after how many years?
53, yeah.
53 years, yes.
That being a culmination, probably uniting the theme there coming to pass. And I think that, well, there are people who might be saying that, the people you were talking about lining up to take over from Francis, Atwoli could be one of them, and that could be part of the script. But as Yvonne said, a very interesting day where the worker, I'm not sure whether they felt represented.
But
we need to actually take a break. We really need to take a break.
Something that was represented is also a question of who is who's taste.
We need to take a break because we'll be going to China, Kisumu, Naivasha.
Absolutely. And back. We're taking a break. News Gang. We'll be right back. The hashtag is News Gang on Twitter. We'll be back.